Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, here with comic Andrew Gillespie. Andrew Gillespie, how the hell are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. I know we had Roxy Areco on, and you guys are just the big time with the Oddcast Pay.
Yeah, totally.
Oddcast Pay, and I think I found out via one of the places that's blown out, maybe like Apple or something. It says it's Pig Latin. So podcast and Pig Latin is Oddcast Pay.
Yeah, it was a super original title. If you can tell, we put a lot of effort into it.
But I can't believe that hasn't been taken before now. It just shows that you guys find the comic gold where everybody else is overlooked it.
I think that's kind of our brand, is like picking things that are funny that surprisingly no one else has thought of.
Yeah, well, that's originality. That's the place to be. And I know I follow you online. You are Andrew G5000 at both Twitter and Instagram.
So yeah.
And you're at AndrewGillespieActor.com.
Yes.
And I was looking at the comedy page on your website, and the first sketch that was Rumspring in 2019. It started out with you showing up late to what looked like a date, and you guys discussed, and you said that you had met on the subway at 4 a.m. or something. How did that sketch resolve itself? I didn't get through the whole thing.
Oh my God, yeah. So that sketch was it was a senior project in acting school that I did with this woman Annie Martino, who is like one of the absolute funniest people I've ever met in my entire life, and we decided to do our project together, and we decided we're just gonna like make this like as weird and stupid and like in deadpan as possible. And it basically just, and it just kind of starts that way and then just kind of gets weirder and weirder, ends with her trying to like, I think, stab me with like a butter knife or something is like how it ends, or something like that.
So it just slowly reveals itself through the occasional revelation of a detail.
Yeah, it's
or
literally
two.
When we were writing it, we just like were piling on just like weird shit after weird shit, to the point that the guy who was directing it, who was supposed to direct it, was like, I don't really want to do this. This is really stupid. And we were like, yeah,
yes,
we're not going to change it.
That's when you know you're doing something correctly, man.
Literally.
The director walk off.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fucking amazing. And so have you done anything else with Annie Martino?
Oh, what have I done with Annie?
Also, Rough Night was another sketch.
Rough Night, yeah. So Annie's in that. That was the first sketch that I wrote. That was also in school. It was Annie Martino, Susan Dorff, and Ellie Louise York, who are also just amazing actresses that I'm obsessed with, that I went to school with, who actually, the three of them kind of wrote that a little bit more than I did. Like the way it kind of started was like they improvised together. I gave them kind of like character descriptions, with the idea that of like what the plot was going to be, but I just kind of wanted to like see them if they could get to it on their own, like through improv. Like I had the plot in mind, and they did, and I recorded them just doing this improv, and then kind of like wrote the script off of that.
Nice.
Because they're all just like so funny. And then I'm also writing a movie right now that I have a part for Annie and for Ellie, and for Roxy.
Good.
I love writing things for my friends. I think a lot more than for myself.
and so how did you decide that the idea was good enough to devote an entire full-length script to it?
Oh my God.
The movie you're right now.
Oh, okay. So that's gone through a lot of stuff. Yeah, I started writing this. It's gonna be this like comedy thriller about my time in acting school. And it started out as like kind of a more serious, like, because I needed like I needed to get out a lot of grievance that I had about acting school.
Yeah, really?
How like insane it was.
Them charging an arm and a leg for such a practical degree.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah, right. Killing myself for the chance to continue killing myself for no money. It's awesome. Yeah, so it just kind of developed, and then I started working with a producer named Anna Maioli, who was like, you realize this could be like really funny, and I was like, Yeah, you're right. That probably makes a lot more sense. Because it was like really serious and like dark at the beginning, and it was like people were, and she was reading, and she's like, "Dude, it's acting school. It's not that serious." And it's like, yeah, you're right. Um,
But
so
also, they probably looked at your acting chops and just knew that you were comic gold, right?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Whenever I act, I don't really think about it either in stuff like that. Like I've never considered myself like either a comedic actor or a dramatic actor. It just kind of like depends on like the piece that I'm working on, and like I kind of trust that like if I just oh God, this sounds really douchey. Like if I just like am like truthful and honest about whatever is on the page, like I kind of trust the writer and the director and the editor to make it whatever tone it kind of needs to be, and I just kind of fall into that. So I don't know. I do really like doing comedy. Yeah, I think it's a lot more difficult, but it's just really fun.
Yeah, and I saw that from your Instagram videos here. The first one I fired up was how I mean, it just sounds like Amy Adams and Jennifer Garner, they asked you to be part of their amazing Save with Stories series where you're reading your favorite book to kids and to help them enriching their minds. That had a little bit of a twist that I wasn't expecting.
Oh my God, yeah. So that was like beginning of quarantine. I was so bored. I was so fucking bored. It was like when I was just cooped in my apartment. I hadn't like come home to my parents yet. And I just saw like all these celebrities, like it was around the time of the Imagine video, and like they were doing all these like really kind of like pandering, like condescending, like we're gonna get through this and we're gonna, provide things for people on Instagram. And so Amy Adams, of all people, like started an Instagram where her and Jennifer Garner would read children's books on
Yeah.
Instagram Live, and I just kind of expect that children were just gonna like watch Instagram Live and watch them read stories, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So I was just like, this is really stupid. So I just like did one where I ended up reading my favorite children's book, The Lovely Bones.
Yes, and can I reveal a little joke in there? I have to. Is that all right?
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so you're reading the thing, and it's so great because you're like Lovely Bones. Like I was like Lovely Bones. I think I generally knew the gist of it, so I knew the twist was coming once you revealed the title, and you probably revealed it so people would know. Don't let your kids fucking listen to what I'm about to say. But then you start describing the scene where it just seems like, oh, I don't know, somebody's in love or something, and then you go, and she's dead, by the way. Like meaning
Yeah.
she was talking to a dead person at that point.
I know. I didn't put a lot of thought into it, into like what passage of it I was gonna read, because there are like way more kind of like fucked up parts of that I could have read than the one that I ended up doing.
Yeah, I
So I
thought it
was
was gonna
reading it,
get
and I was
pretty
like, oh wait,
fucked
this
up. Yeah,
actually sounds like kind of nice and sweet. But then
yeah.
so I had to kind of be like, oh, and she's like dead.
Yes, and then
In
the
case you
second
didn't
the
get it.
second video was so great too. Is I love that these start out as very official things that even tag the official institution. Like here,
Oh, is
like
this the
thanks to our Architecture
Arch
Digest for coming
Digest? Oh
over.
my
Yeah,
God.
for coming over while in quarantine, and then it says I thought did you call your dungeon or something? But it was the quarantine
My
edition of Architectural
quarantine dungeon.
Digest where
Yeah.
you took them around your pad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that was again. That was like a week into quarantine, and I was losing my mind already.
Yeah.
Like it was like mid-March when I made that, and like, um, they had started coming out with like, these like videos of like celebrities showing their like weird or like insane houses to people, and I was just like looking around my apartment, which was completely empty because all my roommates had left at that. And it was
Oh,
so dirty and gross and empty and small, and I was
I
like,
loved it.
this is the same as what they're
It
doing.
yeah, it really hit home for me because a lot of that stuff, like you're like, and there's something I left on the ground because I'm too lazy to pick it up. That's me to a
Right.
T, dude. Like,
Too
and so
depressed. I had
really,
like trash in my room. Yeah.
yeah. Did you have to kind of arrange it like that, or were you
No,
living like that at the time?
super not. I literally didn't do anything.
And are you
That
still
was just
living like
how
that?
I was
That's where
living.
the test comes.
No,
Like,
no, I'm
ah,
not. I promise I'm not. Because
boo,
I
boo.
left. No, I I had to. I couldn't. I like that was it was a mess. I was a disaster for the first like couple weeks, and then so I had to leave New York for a little while because my head was just gonna explode.
And then the roommates finally came back.
No, I moved out of that apartment.
Oh, okay.
My
Did you move
roommates
in
are
with roommates such that you couldn't,
I have a sublet going on right now. Just because I'm not really sure how long I'm staying in New York, or like if I'm moving to back home with my parents for a longer period of time, or if I'm going to LA, or if I don't know. It's just everything's really up in the air. So I'm just kind of like I want to make this as short term and non-committal as possible because that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've made that decision too. It's like, I could just as easily move,
Mhm.
back to the Midwest where I'm from, or move to LA. That's the other option. But then here it's just like, there were so many cheaper apartments rather than LA. Like LA, there just wasn't as many.
Yeah,
It,
well, my brother lives in LA.
oh, cool.
And well, actually, he did. He's I think back now because he's still in school, and his school kind of ended. But I was, just because like I I'm auditioning for stuff kind of all the time, and I feel things are starting to kind of go back into production now, and so I just felt like there was an opportunity there. My agency in New York has an office in LA that I could, get set up with, and I could do that. It's also just like not. I have no idea like how safe it is there or anything. So it's
Yeah.
just like it's just I don't know. I think I just like fantasizing about change.
Yeah, I think me too. And one thing in that video that I recognized was you're like, and that's a kitchen, and you can actually cook stuff there. But then in the garbage, there was all this takeout stuff. And so is that kind of like you too? Do you rely on takeout quite a bit?
No, okay.
Yeah.
So for the my entire college life, yes, until quarantine hit. And then I started cooking and I actually realized that I love cooking.
Oh,
And I'm good at it. And I
oh,
love posting about stuff I cook and like having people compliment me because I love attention. Um so I like post things and people like respond like on my Insta stories or whatever, being like, "That looks so good," and I'm like, "Oh my God, no, it doesn't. Are you kidding? I'm terrible."
but I guess the question is, why am I not seeing the comedy food show on your Instagram grid here?
I was thinking about doing something like that. I was thinking about doing like a Instagram live like cooking thing where like I'm bad at it or something like that.
Yeah, you'd have to
I could
act too much. You're like, no, that's a bridge too far. I'm not going to act like I can't cook. I'm a natural.
no, I'm so good at it. I can have anyone think I'm bad at cooking. It's a point of pride, serious pride for me.
And so, yeah, and I guess one of the things I'd love, as far as the source of your comedy videos, I imagine that you could get something out of the survival jobs that you've had to have over the years.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, I've done some pretty crazy shit for money.
Okay. Can you talk about any of them? Do you feel
Yeah.
comfortable
Oh my
talking about
God.
them,
My so
admitting
the
them in a
first
podcast?
Yeah, the first job that I ever had in New York, that I was like swiftly fired from was Madame Tussauds in Times Square.
Oh, what were you
uh,
doing? Ripping tickets?
so okay, so it was the summer of 2016, and the new Ghostbusters movie was coming out. So they had this like exhibit in Madame Tussauds where they had like wax figures of like the Ghostbusters or whatever, and so they needed people to be in the exhibit to like direct like traffic kind of through it and stuff, but they wanted you to do it like in character. So there were like three rooms, and like one of them was like a subway station, and you were like an MTA worker. One of them was like a evil science lab, and you were like a mad scientist. And then you were like in a haunted hotel, and you were like a concierge. It was so stupid. People would walk in, we would have like lines we would have to say, and guests would just like stare at us and then like walk away. They'd be like, "Why are you talking to me?"
We want wax museum characters, not people talking to us
They're
in a
like, yeah, they're
script.
like,
Like,
I
what
thought the whole
part did
point
you
of this
play?
was they don't talk.
Yeah, what part did you
No,
play?
it was insane. Yeah, and I got fired like 3 weeks into it um for reasons that I truly don't remember at this point. I probably deserved it, but it was the happiest day of my life.
You were riffing on the script that they provided you?
I maybe that's or no, I think it was more I just wasn't saying shit because
Ah,
I knew that they didn't want to hear from me
yes. And then
because
what part were you playing in that little play
you
there?
would rotate. You would rotate between like
Okay.
the three. You would be like an MTA worker, and you'd have to be like the subway system is so going. There's like weird things happening, and then you'd be the scientist, and you'd have to be like, I don't even fucking remember. It was like 4 years ago, but like it was it was batshit. It was like the thing it was just the one thing that people did not want in that exhibit was to have to listen to, 19-year-old acting students their way through.
But that was a gig, and so what was a longer term gig that you've had that kind of got you through the whole acting thing? Acting school.
I've had it's been multiple things. So my longest one, my senior year, I worked at a gym at NYU.
Yes, you and Roxy,
Yeah,
right?
Roxy.
She's gonna make a gym comedy show with you.
Yeah, she has an idea for a series about it, which I think would be great. I loved that job so much because you did not have to do shit at it.
You just sat
You
there.
literally, it would be like you would sit in the basement, and student athletes would like check out gear, but like they wouldn't practice every day, and on the days I was there, more often than not, they weren't practicing, so I would just sit with like my supervisor who was just like another student or like just graduated student, and we would like talk or like watch YouTube or like just
Yes.
whatever.
Perfect.
It was, and yeah, it was it was an insane job. And there was one day that I was there with Roxy and this supervisor Lynn, who was like super fun and chill, and I got an audition that day from my agent to film this like commercial for SpongeBob.
Okay.
But it wasn't like a voiceover thing. It was like they wanted people who were like really big SpongeBob fans to like answer trivia questions about SpongeBob, and it was like the stupidest thing. I was like, seriously, this is all there is in the world right now. Um, and
Did you even like SpongeBob?
No, I do. I'm not
Okay.
passionate about it. And
I
I, and it's not
don't want to
exactly,
meet those who are either.
yeah, and it's also not exactly the kind of stuff that I was used to getting for
Yes.
auditions. And I was like, I'm 2 months out of college, and this is what I'm getting for auditions. That's a little scary. But basically, what we ended up doing was we ended up doing it as like those like Vogue 73 question videos where like they like follow people around and like ask them questions.
Yeah.
So we basically did it like that, like a parody of that, where like they were following me through like the basement of my gym, and I was like
Yes.
answering questions about SpongeBob.
Good.
Um, and and so I sent it to my agent, and she responded, and she was like, "Okay, point taken. We're not gonna send you anything more." Yeah.
Why?
Because it was stupid.
Oh,
I
because
don't know.
you were kind of parodying the job that you were hoping to get.
Yeah, well, yes,
Ah.
and maybe I should. I don't know, and maybe that isn't great. But like, I mean, that was the only time I've done something like that. But it was
I
just like for
love it.
that, I was just kind of like really.
You're
Um,
like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe that was unprofessional. But like since then, it's just. I mean,
uh,
you're probably very professional for
I
most
mean, I have
opportunities because they're
not.
better.
I haven't suffered any like major consequences from it. I didn't
It,
book it,
I
but
mean, as an actor going to a big time school, and you probably have had some big time roles in high school and college. Like, do you get spoiled to the point where then you're like, I can't believe they're sending me on this SpongeBob thing. I used to be King Lear or some shit.
For some people, that has been the case. I would not necessarily say that was the case for me, only because when I was in college, at the studio that I was at, they would exclusively cast me as fathers and grandfathers in everything. Um, I was, 20. So I actually graduated and I was like, I haven't played anything that was my age, and I'm not sure I want to do that. So I mean, and like those things are fun, but like and like they're challenging and like they're kind of interesting, but like once you get to like the fourth time, you're kind of like, okay, what are you guys trying to say here? I would love to play someone, because then there would be other people in other, productions in school who would be playing like, high schoolers or like, a 20-year-old students. And like, it's like, I feel like that would be a little more interesting right now.
And so
Um,
and then so a good thing about starting your own project is then you could play characters you like. And did you do that in Filthy Rich?
yeah, Filthy Rich was really, yeah, that was kind of how that all kind of started. Was like we were just this group of people who, we're out of school or like we're facing graduation, and like we're like we just want to do something that just like really feels like us. And so everyone kind of like, yeah, created their own characters and like kind of their personality traits and stuff that were just kind of based on either who they were as people or things that they wanted to do and hadn't gotten to do. Um, and then we just kind of like built the story kind of around the like individual characters that everyone had created. So
And
yeah, it definitely
yeah,
was
so
fun.
yeah, so what were the attributes that you selected for your character that we can see on Filthy Rich, your web series?
Okay, so the thing about that is I didn't really do that because
You just didn't want to play a dad or a grandpa.
well, yeah, basically that was my I was like I just don't want to be a grandpa. No, it was like I mean I was one of the kind of original like kind of writers on it, so I was like writing plots and stuff kind of early on in it, and I when it came kind of time to my character started as more of like a kind of a plot kind of person, and so as we were writing it, I was like, I'm just gonna kind of infuse this with like my own personality traits and like he's very sarcastic and like deadpan and super gay and like just not doesn't want to be there, which is like kind of I feel like that's kind of the
Doesn't
I
want
feel
to
like that's
be.
kind
It
of the vibe
doesn't
I
want to
give
be
off.
there. I love
Yeah,
doesn't want to be there. That's a character trait. You're
that's
absolutely right.
that's a character trait and everything I do is I don't want to be there.
Uh,
Except for this podcast, of
of
course.
course, yeah.
Uh,
Present company always excluded. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
And so
you know that.
and so like yeah, which like there was this is kind of a one season thing I think, and
Hmm.
it was series 237 or what was the producer of that? I thought it was
So
series
that
37 or
so basically
73.
it
I
was
forgot.
so it was 239 Arts was
Yeah.
kind of the name that we put on it. So basically kind of how it was conceptualized was like this girl that we went to college with, Mayroni, started this like writers group, where people would come in and like bring things that they were working on and read them, get feedback and stuff like that. And it was very much like a drop in, come in whenever, and kind of a non-committal kind of thing. But it got to the point where kind of it became kind of the same like 12 people every week that were coming to this thing after a while, and it got to
Yeah.
the point where we were like, let's just make something. So it wasn't really like an established like company that we were doing it with so much as it was like we were just this group of people, and like we started as part of this writers workshop that was called the 239 Arts Collaborative, so let's just use that name. And then we shot at the house of and with the equipment of this really great documentary filmmaker named Billy Barber,
Okay.
who has a production company that he also let us put their name on it to kind of make it look a little more professional. But it was really a very like from the ground up kind of just building it as a unit kind of a thing. At
What are
least
you
in, at
going?
least in production.
And so, are you guys going to do? I mean, are you going to do another season or another kind of series with this 239?
I'm not sure. The thing that really got that stuck with me after Filthy Rich was how good of the collaborators Roxy and I were,
Yeah.
because we were two of the three directors, so we were involved like in throughout the entire process. So like even like all the way late into post production and like marketing and all that kind of stuff. So we ended up spending our entire summer after graduation. We spent together with the third director Bree Flack and our editor Danica Lee Klauser, who and just kind of like parceling over every single frame, and we really kind of realized that we worked really well together and had really similar methodology and like concepts of things that were funny and like how all that stuff worked. So really, continuing with Roxy was kind of the biggest thing that came out of Filthy Rich.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. I asked the same question of Roxy, and she seemed to be. It sounds like yeah, the 239 might have been a one-off, a good experience, and a one-off for both. But you guys are busy with Oddcast Pay.
Yeah, we started doing Oddcast Pay because a few months after Filthy Rich was over, we were, both of us were really kind of into our like, restaurant jobs and like just trying to, she was trying to move into the city and I was trying to, audition and like, make my rent and all that kind of stuff. And but we were really just itching to do something again. So we kind of started, and we really around that time started getting into comedy separately. She was starting to do stand up, and I was starting to write. And
They're not going to let you play around in women's stand up.
no, women stand up does not need me. But I
Smooth.
love women stand up. They
Yeah.
are like Brittany Raper and Natalie Gifford have like
Yes.
the setup that they have is so cool, and it's such a cool idea. The shows that they've put on that I've seen are really really good. So like and they've gotten some really like pretty high profile people kind of involved with them. So I think it's
Yeah.
gonna kind of go really far.
And so
Um,
you kind of focused on writing though, and of course you'll be writing for these female comedians in the future, in addition to writing kind of your own movie, etc.
I hope so. I would
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah. I mean, can you give us? I mean, can you? I mean, I know the movie itself was, started kind of kind of a little serious because you were a little bit angst ridden because of the whole experience at acting school, and it turned into a comedy. Can you
mhm.
give us like any more of a specific premise than that?
Yeah, totally. So basically, what it is like there's this girl who is new at this acting school, and she has kind of some issues psychologically, and as she kind of gets there, she realizes that the way that the school teaches acting leads to some kind of like dangerous methodology that she
Ah,
kind
that's
of
cool.
gets involved in. Yeah, so and it's really just like a you know I mean it's silly, and it's a big like, and it's supposed to be really funny, but it definitely came from a place of like when I was in acting school, like people would I would do something and it would be good, and I would feel good about it, and it would be truthful and stuff, but people would still tell me that it was like wrong because it didn't use like the specific method that they were teaching us at the
Ah.
school.
So
um
the method is kind of a big, through line, or it's kind of a big governing factor in a program. Whether or not you're obeying the methodology is super important.
Yeah,
So that's why you're playing on
wherever
that for the
you
movie.
go. I mean, and that's how Tish works. Is like when you get in, you get put into a certain studio, and the studio, it subscribes to a certain technique, and they try to teach you that. But the way that it kind of worked in my experience was like they weren't teaching it to us as like a jumping off point to kind of like create your own artistry from it, so much as it was like a more rigid kind of like thing that you had to follow, and if you didn't follow it, you
Yes.
weren't doing good acting.
Sad. That's cookie cutter shit, man.
Yeah, well, it's just what didn't work for me, and it works
Yeah.
for other people, which is fine. But like for me, it was not the way that I kind of worked really well. And so actually, my senior year when I left and went this place called Stone Street Studios, which was the film and television studio at Tisch, they were much more like, we know that you know how to act, and we know that you have your own process, and we're just here to sculpt it and to fine tune it, and figure out how this is going to work for you to be as successful as you can be in the way that you want to do things. And it was just this whole
That's separate. And so you're saying there's a theater school and the film and television school is also going to take advantage of your acting, but it won't try to shape it inappropriately?
Well, it's just a different school that you can go to in the Tisch umbrella, that you
Oh,
can
okay.
like go to when you become a junior or a senior, and if you want to, and there are other studios that you can go to that have different methodology if that's
Oh, cool.
your thing. So I went there because I wanted to do film and television, but but even in addition to it just being specifically for film and television, the way that they treated you was a lot more like you're a person who knows
Yes.
how to do what you're doing, and we're not here to like make you do it our way as much as we're trying to use our tools to
Yeah.
help you better do it your
Good.
way, which just changed my whole perspective on it, and really made me graduate feeling good about having spent 4 years
Yes.
at
Because
this
because I
really expensive college.
yeah, because I think that'd be the safe presumption by that point. If you got to the junior year of Tish or whatever, it's like we should presume you're the artist and you know what you're doing. So let's just make sure you look good on film. Let's make
Yeah.
sure sure you're looking at the right camera and we're capturing the
that's
genius that is Andrew Gillespie. Yeah. And so it's also cool, though, that the movie you're choosing is kind of being funny at the expense of this self-serious methodology. I just had Jamie Benson on, and he's doing, he kind of did the same thing with dancing, where it was so self-serious that when he kind of went off and did his own thing, he was doing comedy videos poking at the self-serious nature of dance. And so that's why, that's why Andrew Gillespie is the artist, and you can't put Baby in a corner. You can't box him in with fucking methodology. Fuck that. And that's why we follow him.
I sound like such a douche.
Oh, dude, I love this. You're like, I'm going to sound like a douche except XYZ. But yeah, so Andrew G 5000 on both Twitter and Instagram, but also AndrewGillespieActor.com. And that's where we can see you just have the most hilarious dates of all time, where she's going to kill you with a butter knife.
That is what happens, yeah.
Yeah, now that I hear that the director quit mid-sketch, I have to go back and finish that off. But also Oddcast Pay with Roxy Areco. Andrew Gillespie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was great.